At one point, during what I can only imagine to be a particularly torturous writing session, the upcoming Blade movie apparently turned into one with several female leads, where Blade himself was relegated to the 4th lead role in his own movie. That's pretty funny. That is unironically pretty funny right there. As I love the idea of Marvel coming out with a Blade movie in, I think the release time now is 2025 or something, and having 3 females telling Blade to check his privilege and to get in the back of the line. I think that would be pretty great, actually. Perhaps not for Blade as a character, but for me personally, I imagine it would be quite entertaining at least. Good God. Now, to be fair, this is merely just a rumoured permutation of the script, so it's unlikely to turn into anything. In all due likelihood, this was, as I mentioned, a particularly ass-backwards and unproductive writing session where somebody was like, oh my god, let's just like kill Blade or something and replace him with Blade's mother, sister, and unknown daughter, okay? And then we can bring him back as a ghost or something to justify the title, alright? Anything to get out of this room! Probably, anyways. This is one of the cuter little tidbits that come from a much rather larger English variety article on Marvel. Now, honestly, the article itself says very, very, very little new. Imagine every pop cultural commentator on YouTube's take on Marvel and Disney about a year or 2 ago, and you've got roughly this article summed up. In other words, Marvel has done very well, but now, after oversaturating the market to the point of ludicrousness, it's doing very poorly. And you know what? Let's talk a little bit about this issue, because it's one that I haven't addressed particularly often, because the entertainment in movies and television, particularly when it comes to the Marvel things, is one thing that I have more or less ignored largely, frankly, because I mean, there's so much of it. The upcoming The Marvels I might look into simply because it's looking like it's that big of a train wreck, and I kind of missing out, regret English, missing out on She-Hulk because that was apparently just absolutely fantastic. But everything else, like Ant-Man is mediocre at absolute best, Loki, like, goddammit. Please don't insult my mythology any further, and Captain America as a black man is, well, just that. It's Captain America, but he's black now, for reasons. And honestly, US Agent did absolutely nothing wrong. That was my only takeaway from that TV show. In fact, US Agent should be given his own television series because he seems to be the only one who knows what the hell is actually going on at this point. And as for Kamala Khan, or whatever her name was, the fact that she's been rebooted like half a dozen times in comic book format should indicate that her future on the big or small screen are not particularly rosy. And finally, the rest of the entertainment industry is waking up to this fact as well. I find it very interesting that in a publication like Variety, you get a mention like this, as if this is supposed to be a joke. Hell, move back 2 or 3 years, and they would be like, you know what, it would be really empowering to reduce Blade to a 4th part lead in his own movie, to empower black female voices. Unironically, that would probably be viewed as a good thing, hell, 1 year ago? Yeah, 1 year, as little as that. And now it's presented almost as a little bit of a joke. Now, they don't go quite so far as to go like, haha, wouldn't that be absurd? The only thing they really point out is a bizarre idea, considering that the studio had 2-time Oscar winner Ali on board. So the guy who's going to be playing Blade is Ali... Marshala Ali, there you go, right. So he looks pretty good for the role, honestly. He's not Wesley Snipes, but then again, who is? And they're now moving to make a movie with a much smaller budget, because of course Marvel and Disney as a whole has been bleeding a tremendous quantity of cash. I think they mentioned previously that, what was it? I don't remember if it was near here or whatever, but they mentioned somewhere in the article that 1 episode of She-Hulk cost $25 million. That's a lot of money. That's a quarter of the entire budget now that has been allocated to Blade. Now, to be fair, Blade has been in writing hell for, what, 2 years? Perhaps even 3, maybe? As it had a 2023 release date. And you know what? Here's the thing. Does Blade need a $250 million Marvel budget? Does it need to be the Avengers or Iron Man? No, it really doesn't. In fact, I imagine you could make a perfectly fine Blade movie with $100 million. Hell, the first Blade movie was literally the industry going like, what about this comic bullshit? Is anybody interested in that shit? Let's pick one of the more edgy, action hero character ones and see if anybody likes it. And yes, they did. The original Blade is still an absolute gosh darn classic. And frankly, if you just did that again, people would cheer like mad. This is basically what we've been telling Disney and Marvel for the last, few years now. It isn't necessarily the problem that you're making too much cape shit. Because I think that the superhero movie is it is fundamentally a good movie. It's good versus evil. It's a big shining hero versus the big bad villain. This is the core of every single solitary good movie. The issue isn't that Marvel doesn't have the heroes. It's that we've all seen these heroes too many goddamn times doing the same goddamn thing. And simply making Hulk female isn't really going to work. See, this is what the comic book industry has lived on. Like, anyone who says that superhero fatigue is a phenomenon, well, you're partially correct in that there are obviously ebbs and waves, etc. But the very fact that Batman is like 70 or 80 years old now as a character, and he's still selling, he's still creating comics, he's still getting movies, is a very clear indication that, honestly, these heroes are very, very, very long-lived. Now, obviously, everyone isn't Batman. Ant-Man is not Batman. Kamala Khan is most assuredly not Batman. But you get my drift. It is the quality of the product rather than necessarily the quantity of it that is determining. And Ant-Man and Quantic was absolute arse. She-Hulk was absolute arse. The Marvels appeared to be absolute arse. And what people would want from a Blade movie isn't that. We don't want Blade but She-Hulk. We don't want Blade but Spider-Man. We want Blade. And $100 million should be more than enough. We want a gritty, brutal, and a little bit of an asshole character who, he's got a little bit of care in him. He'll save a civilian if he's got time to do so, but he won't necessarily bend on over to do so. He's there to kill the vampires first and foremost. He is vulnerable in many ways. He's living outside society. He can become hunted by the law, as we saw in, was it Blade 2, I believe? The vampires themselves have their own reasons and rationale for existing. We're vampires, okay, treating human like cattle, but if the cattle figures out, we're kind of screwed, and Blade is really goddamn dangerous. So how do we deal with this? There is a lot of very, very interesting stuff that you could do with this on a low societal level. You don't need $100 million worth of CGI. You don't need massive, larger-than-life supervillains or invading alien armies. You just need a badass, cool-ass motherfucker that looks amazing in a trench coat with a pair of swords on his back and a bunch of evil vampires for him to slice their heads off and see them disappear in a bunch of ash. That really is all you need. You start the movie by introducing Blade. You've got thumping techno music, maybe some hard rock to really go like, yeah, he's a cool motherfucker. And then you kill a bunch of vampires. Then Blade himself gets into a problem, you stake him to a wall somewhere and bleed him slowly, which seems to be the fetish of every Blade movie. And then eventually he breaks free and kills yet more vampires, stopping some ancient or blood god or whatever the hell from resurrecting. It ain't complicated. And in today's environment, where people are screaming out for, frankly, just back to basics, it would do very well. The issue isn't, again, that people are sick of capes. It is that people are sick of the, oh hey, let's do something weird with the capes. No, like a traditional Superman movie today would do very well. A very classic, cliched life lesson, good versus evil story would do very well. Something along the lines of The Lord of the Rings. Again, a very clear-cut good versus evil would do very well. If you simply just tell a good, basic story and you screw all the frills and the fancy bullshit, you've got a hit. As we've seen recently, in fact, with the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which I want to talk a bit more about. Maybe we'll do it on the ArchCast, perhaps, because I am absolutely fascinated by the journey of that franchise, which, despite its relative simplicity, has garnered an enormous fan base for simply being solidly what it sets out to be, to the point where now it's a multi-million-dollar franchise with, what, 4, 5 main video games and now a movie. And it achieved all of that by staying true to the formula, staying true to the fans that it created, and staying true to the creator's original values, even in the face of cancel culture. It's quite an interesting little story, and it demonstrates yet again that all you really need to do is make the thing that the audience is asking you to make. It ain't rocket science, and yet it might as well be as far as Disney and Hollywood appears to be concerned. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.